Hi vinyl community, John here again. This is going to be a little video that I've been meaning to put together for a long time. Ron Anderson, My Long Puppy, has his thread that he started a while back now about Stump the VC, basically finding or showing a record that you feel that nobody else in the VC possibly has. I don't know if they do have this record. I'm going to show a couple of records this time actually. But start off with spinning this. This is what I'm listening to right now. Susan the Banshees. This is an album called A Kiss in the Dream House. I've got a few records by Susan the Banshees. I'm showing it really because it's perhaps a little bit more of the flavour of the first record I'm going to show. Now, I've shown this record before, way back when, one of my earliest videos I think, and so I feel a bit rubbish showing it again, but I'll show it in a different context I guess. So this is a 12-inch single, a limited edition 12-inch single called The Red Face of God, and the B-side is The Breath and Pain of God. This is released by a band called Current 93. And Current 93 were basically one person called David Tibbett. I mean, he probably had, you know, people helping him or whatever, but it's essentially him. It's like, you know, you could argue that Motorhead is Lemmy Kilminster. Well, you know, this band, Current 93, is David Tibbett. And he released an album, well they released an album in, I've got my notes down here because I'll never remember this kind of stuff, 98, and it was quite a rare album. I've heard Ron speak about, he used a phrase before referring to a type of style of music called noise, I think. Forgive me if I'm wrong, Ron, but I think that's what you've said before. I don't really know what noise is in terms of music, but I'm wondering if this is fits that description. It's kind of well, this is kind of electronic, esoteric, folky. I mean, this guy, he has like a fixation on things like Gnosticism and I don't know, Satanism and all sorts of kind of weird stuff. Wicca, which is sort of like a British folk tradition. Yeah, that's his kind of thing. So his music kind of reflects that. I've even seen it described as sort of electronic folk kind of stuff. You can find this on the internet. Now, I don't think anybody has this purely because there were so few released. The album itself, that this is a sort of an accompanying thing to, was called what was it called? Christ and the Pale Queen, Mighty in Sorrow. And I think they sort of like did a special release where they only released I think less than 1,000 copies of it. And I've seen on the internet the pictures of this thing. Well, I mean, it's kind of weird. So this was meant as an accompaniment to that thing, and they released only 666 copies of this, which technically makes it rarer than the album that it's supposed to go along with. I would love to get hold of that record, not because I really enjoy the music, to be honest with you, I don't, it's not my thing, but just to have the kind of the package of this and that together with that would be quite cool, because it actually does look very attractive. I'll show you the record label. Anyway, I don't think anyone else in the VC has this. Now, I picked this up, so that's how it looks. Quite an attractive label, I think. Same on the other side. I picked this up before the internet, and I remember when I got it, I looked at it very carefully. There's nothing on it to say, you know, who it is other than Current 93. And so before the internet, how would you find out anything about that? You know, you just wouldn't know where to look. I wouldn't anyway. Quite an obscure thing. So come the internet, yeah, I could sort of look up and find out about it. But in the early days, I didn't have a clue, and I just kept on to it just in the hope that one day it would reveal something about itself, and it has. There's a kind of cool inscription here on the sleeve. I'm not going to read it out. Kind of, you know, very well. It's actually a biblical thing. It says, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to break down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to cast away stone, and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get, and a time to lose. A time to keep, and a time to cast away. A time to rend, and a time to sow. A time to keep silence, and a time to speak. A time to love, and a time to hate. A time of war, and a time of peace." Pretty cool, hey? So that was that record. I can't tell you more than that because I don't know. It's rare as hen's teeth, and if anyone else in the VC has this or anything related, or even anything by the band, Current 93, I'd be interested in seeing this, but I don't think anyone does. So there, that's my first record. Okay, so my next record, which I'm going to show, and perhaps this was really, you know, the one that I was going to show, I just kind of crammed that first one in there, was this album by Strider. It's an album called Misunderstood. Again, I've had this since, I don't know, I can't even remember. I would have picked this up in the early days from a car boot sale. I think in the States you'd call it something like a swap meet type affair. Yeah, in those early days I didn't really know what I was picking up. I kind of by that time I'd sort of discovered Deep Purple, so I knew that bands with guys with long hair and guitars were probably going to sound similar to that type of thing, and it was from the 70s. This was released in 74. Now the band Strider, they started up around about 72, but they didn't last more than 2 albums. And what I've read, apparently the first album was better, or at least it overshadowed the second one. I think that the first one was perhaps the stronger because they had more material, what do I know. And the second album kind of fell in its shadow, I guess. An interesting little label. Let's get up to close to the camera. See that? And yeah, it's kind of blues-based rock, is what you'd expect. It's you know, not a million miles away from free, perhaps. Leans in the direction of so many other rock bands at the time. It's fueled and inspired by Deep Purple, you know, Uriah Heep, perhaps you could even sort of hold them up against. They didn't last very long, and that's why I think there aren't many other people in the VC that have this, particularly this one, because they kind of broke up, I think, shortly after this, and which meant they probably didn't sell many copies of this, because if they had done, they probably wouldn't have broken up. But they went on to form, or to go on to play with other artists and other bands. The main guy, Gary Granger, who's the lead guitarist, he eventually became a guitarist in Rod Stewart's band, I guess, that he sort of put together. It's interesting to think that he championed this guy enough to choose him to replace working with someone like Ronnie Wood, for instance. So he must have been very, very good. One to look out for. This is, yeah, somebody's put this up on YouTube already, so you can find it there. I'd like to get hold of their first album, but I haven't seen it for sale at a price that I'm happy to pay for. I think they start around about £50 or £60 on vinyl, and it's probably the sort of thing that if I keep my eye open, one day eventually I will stumble upon it in in a similar condition to this one, in a box of long lost forgotten records in someone's garage maybe, who knows. But that's the beauty of collecting records, isn't it? Okay, well, so if anyone has any of these two records or anything related to them, it'd be really interesting to see those. But otherwise, I would like to encourage others to join in. This is quite a fun thing. I haven't seen many of these recently. I often find records and I often think, this could be one of those that Stump the VC with, but well, maybe I'll come to those sometime in the future. Alright, thanks very much everybody. Watch out for my next video. Bye, thanks.